welcome back to another episode. We're gonna be talking about Game 3, giving my instant reaction of what I just seen. It ain't too much to discuss because Timberwolves, they won this game, in convincing fashion. So we're gonna go ahead, not prolong it, but make sure y'all hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We is on the goal to 400 subs. So make sure y'all hit that subscribe button, hit that comment section below. Without further ado, let's go and get right into it. Minnesota Timberwolves, they won this game. Let me look at the final score because I really turned it off after the third quarter once Mark Dagnall had pulled his starters. I knew it was GG's from there. But let me look at this. Let me look at the final score to get y'all the final score of this game. I know they won by, I don't know why it won't pop up. Okay, they won 143-101. Minnesota Timberwolves. They win on their home floor to make this a 2-1 lead. They avoid the sweep. They win this game by 42 points. And I feel like they did it within the first couple minutes. They came out with a different mindset. They came out with an aggressive mindset. They put pressure on the OKC Thunder defense, attacking the basket, creating open looks for each other, playing off each other. Then on the defensive end, it's really why I feel like, was the complete turnaround from the first two games, from game 3 to the game 1 and game 3. I feel like the Minnesota defense, intensity, attention to detail was a lot more sharper than what it was the first two games. You seen Rudy Gobert, you seen this activity tonight in this game. Even when he was, got switched on and being in that drop coverage against, the Shake SGA, pick and roll, he was making it tough on them, making SGA decisive, making them unsure of what he wanted to do. Did he want to kick it or did he want to pull up? Rudy Gobert, he had a lot of things, and I know he get a lot of flack because, once he play bad, his bad games are allowed. But when he play good, his stat line might not pop out, but the thing is, he do a lot of things that's good that don't show up on the box score, which change a lot of shots, alter a lot of shots, cause confusion. Just him being, just his whole presence, being that elite rim protection that he is, being that elite shot blocker, having that backliner defense, him being, 7'2" with them long arms, can be able to change shots and things like that, so Rudy Gobert, he definitely had a good game, but it started with Anthony Edwards. How he started off this game for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Obviously setting the tone, knowing that this is a must-win game if they want to avoid getting swept, or if they want to be able to prolong or make this a series. Anthony Edwards, he came right on and did that. Scoring 14 points. He haven't had a dunk the first two games. Had 2 dunks in the first quarter. Getting out in transition, playing fast. Wasn't relying on the 3-ball too much, even though he had it going early. He was 3 for 5 in the first quarter, but he was doing it elsewhere. Getting to the paint, creating shots for others, getting to his mid-range. Having his whole repertoire and arsenal on display tonight. It was a good win for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I said this at the game too. They was losing with Minnesota being, to me, the bigger team in size. They was getting destroyed in points in the paint. If they was able to, to switch that around, let's look at the 3-point attempts tonight. They had 90 3-point attempts in the first two games, which is crazy because it's no reason why they should be shooting that many threes. They shot 43 today, but they were 20 of 40, 50% from the 3-point line. They got to the free throw line only 17 times, 13 to 17. They won the rebounding battle pretty comfortably. 31 to 50. So they were plus 19 on the on rebounding category. So they won this game in all facets. They was able to turn the OKC Thunder defense. They was able to turn OKC over. Be able to get out in transition. OKC wasn't able to play defense in the half court, to be able to load up on Julius Randle, be able to load up on Anthony Edwards. That was a key thing. And like I said at the game too, if y'all go back and watch that video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And after this video, make sure y'all go click that video of my game 2 instant reaction. It's what I said, Chris Finch. If I'm telling my guys, obviously the game was pretty much, I'm not gonna say it was over, but there was 30 plus points going into halftime, coming out of halftime. So it really wasn't gonna make that much. But I was still looking for, the third quarter. Third quarter has been, the biggest Timberwolves Achilles heel. They 69 to 37 when it come to third quarter points in the first two games. Tonight, they turned that around. Even with them having a big lead, I was still looking at that because you don't want to give up. You don't want to be minus 14. You don't want to be minus 15, minus 20 in the third quarter again to be able to give some life into the OKC Thunder team. And which I think they capitalized off that tonight. They showed they was able to play a full 48 minutes. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he said a good thing at the game too, which let me know the change of mindset from the Minnesota Timberwolves is that he said at the game too after they had lost is that you got to take it quarter by quarter because this not a team that you're gonna be able to just knock out, which they threw a big knockout punch today. And they knocked them out. Winning by 42 points against this OKC historic defense. Hey man, that's no easy feat. That ain't no feat you should take lightly. Even what people want to say, oh, it's just one game. Man, 42 points against a team like that is heavy favorites to win it all against this historic defense that everybody been raving about, and you drop and you beat them guys by 42 points. Man, I think that's something that shouldn't be, just shoved under the rug, even if it is one game. Because what I was looking for, it ain't really just about how much the Timberwolves won tonight. It's about how they played, and I think that was the biggest difference. They came out, they wasn't fouling, they weren't putting SGA on the free throw line. They was making everybody work for everything. And the biggest thing is that, like I said, Rudy Gobert, he played a big part because they made SGA a decision maker instead of a scorer. And I'm not saying that SGA can't do it or the OKC team not capable of doing, taking on that offensive load. But if I'm Chris Finch and I'm Minnesota Timberwolves, okay, we seen the first two games with SGA and what type of problems he can give us and the problems that he creates on the defensive side for Minnesota. If we can be able to, kind of shut him off or cut off his water a little bit, contain him, which they did a very good job. They only 14 points with I don't know what he shot from the field. 14 points. He was 4 from 13 from the field. That's what we're looking for because you're looking for, now you're asking guys like Luke Dort to put the ball on the floor and create shots and opportunities for himself and or for others. Now you're asking guys like Alex Caruso to create shots for himself and so and for others. You're asking Chet Holmgren. Which Chet Holmgren, he showed he is capable, but I don't think Chet Holmgren is somebody who you want to be, obviously he can be your leading scorer, but that's if you got some multiple guys in 20. You got 20. You get J-Dub with 20. You get SGA with 20. You get Chet with 20. But him being your lead scorer and everybody else not coming along with him, I don't think Chet Holmgren can be able to. That's that type of player to be able to take you home. Jalen Williams, he had it going tonight for the OKC Thunder. Really, the only one who had it going. You look at him. Even when he had 13 points, he was 3 of 9. I think they did a very good job on him defensively. I just think the whole, it was just a good switch. And this is what I was anticipating coming into the series. When I chose the Minnesota Timberwolves to win this game to win this series in 7 games, this is what I envisioned. And what I mean by that, I'm not saying they're not gonna win by 40 every game, but I'm saying from the defensive perspective, offensive perspective, and how they played tonight is what I was envisioning throughout this whole series. How they played tonight was how I envisioned the Minnesota Timberwolves playing. Not saying just because I'm saying this how they played tonight is not going to always result into a 40-point win. But I'm saying that would have gave them a better chance in game 1 and game 2. Because now you look at it tonight, they was able to control turnovers, in which a lot of this series has shifted in these first 2 games, and where the momentum shifted is when OKC was able to force turnovers and get out in transition. You look at OKC with 14 turnovers today. You look at Minnesota with 10 turnovers. Even though they had double-digit turnovers, but how many of those were leading out to transition points, live ball turnovers that was leading up to opportunities for the OKC Thunder to create offense and transition? I think that was the biggest thing for them. Rebounding, making sure you take care of the ball, making sure you keep OKC at a transition. You kept Shea. Under his normal average by a lot. You made it tough on him. You forced him into a lot of bad shots, forced him to a lot of turnovers. You got after on the defensive side of the ball. Y'all put your head down and y'all went to the rim. You got a very good effort from everybody tonight. Anthony Edwards with 30, 39, and 6. Him being a star player of the team and him knowing the type of magnitude and how the importance of this game 3, them not wanting to go down 0-3 in this series. it was huge for him to come out and set the tone. And I think that's what he did tonight. He answered that call. Everybody been, kind of been trying to jump off this bandwagon of Anthony Edwards, and that's kind of the common trend for somebody like Ant. You look at Anthony Edwards these last 2 seasons, the last 2 postseason runs. Once he's up, everybody rave about him, saying he's this, saying he's face of the league, saying he's next Michael Jordan, this, and that, and the third. But as soon as he loses, or he's not having a good series, or he's struggling, or anything like that, when he's not, at his apex, they so quick to tear him down and try to strip everything that they said about him when he was playing good, and strip everything they said when he's playing bad. So I think it was good for Anthony Edwards. I think in the last 2 games, Anthony Edwards has showed his ability to bounce back. In game 1, he didn't really look aggressive, and he really didn't was effective in that game 1 loss against OKC. But in game 2, him giving you 34 points, 9 rebounds, basically same stat line with 0 turnovers. Guess how many turnovers he had tonight? Gave you 4 turnovers, but the ball in his hands a lot. He had 4 to 10 turnovers. So Minnesota, they did a very good job of taking care of the ball. And I think that's the main key thing. If Minnesota can be able to take care of the ball and limit transition points for the OKC Thunder, like I said, it's harder said than done. I think they're gonna have a very good shot of coming back and winning this series, or making this a tough series for the OKC Thunder. Because like I said, from a defensive standpoint, I think, they can be able to match up well with OKC. They got length over there. They got athleticism. They got size. They got a rim protector. They got perimeter guys that can be able to stop the point of attack, penetration and things like that. So, then it was good to see Julius Randle to come alive. 24 points, 9 to 15, 2 for 5 from the 3-point line. You get 10 points from Jay McDaniels. The bench is really what stood out to me as well. Naz Reid had a good bounce back game. 10 points, 8 rebounds from Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He been good, terrific these last 2 games. 12 points and a difference maker. And the X factor tonight was Terrence Shannon Jr. He came off the bench and provided an instant offense and provided an instant spark plug to this Minnesota Timberwolves offense and to this team, which he had 15 points tonight. And all these things is what led into this 42-point win. Because we can all just say, oh, OKC they didn't play their best and things like that. But when you really look at this series, I really feel like these first 3 games, I think Minnesota has been doing a solid job of keeping OKC under wraps when it comes to their offense. Because game 1, even though they won that game, I didn't think OKC really played their best. You look at game 2, obviously, Shay, you get that. But that's the thing. If you able to cut off the head of the snake, you don't, outside of OKC, who else do you really trust to create shots and opportunities, consistently for the OKC Thunder against this type of defense? Are you trusting Jay Will after what you just seen in that Denver Nuggets series? Are you trusting Chet? Now, if you don't trust those guys, now you're asking guys like Cason Wallace. You're asking guys like Isaiah Joe. You're asking guys like Alex Caruso. You're asking guys like Luke Dort, who is not known to be able to, provide you what you need on the offensive end, and you making them have to do more and produce more on that end than what they usually accustomed to. So I think the Minnesota Timberwolves, they did a good job, had a good game plan. They came out with a good aggressive mindset, being like, okay, we're not finna lay down like this. And I told y'all at the game 2, it's time for y'all to put your hard cap on. With my heart, mate. I told y'all it was time for them to put their hard cap on, and it's time for them to strap up their boots, load the ammo, and get ready. And that's what they did tonight. They came down and laid out a Javonte Davis punch, and they weren't able to wake up from that. I'm talking about they gave OKC what Tank did to Frank Moore. That's what Minnesota did tonight, and OKC was not able to get off the canvas, and that was from the opening tip, from the opening gate. The defensive pressure, defensive intensity, the attention to detail, the attention to just the discipline. Just from all categories, everything that they was lacking in game 1 and 2, they looked at the film and they was able to correct it in this game or try to minimize it. They destroyed tonight. They was aggressive in the paint. They was the aggressor. They had more points in the paint tonight. On the defensive side of the ball, they weren't fouling. They was playing without fouling, had their hands up, making Shea a crowd of bodies, and making him become a playmaker and a decision maker more so than a scorer, to be able to operate and play at his own pace. You had you got guys. You limit the OKC Thunder from transition points and things like that. And that's just how I feel. Cause like I said, man, when you beat a team in a playoff game by 42 points, there ain't really much to discuss and to dive into this game. You know, especially like somebody like OKC, you want to just watch this game down and go and go on to game 4. But if you Minnesota, you look at this game, you're like, okay, we can compete. After all the struggles that y'all had in game 1 and game 2, y'all can look at this game 3 and feel like, okay, we do deserve to be on the same floor as them. You know, we do belong to be able to share courts with a team like this. Y'all, we just been beating ourselves. And I've been saying this whole series long, even with them with being 0-2. I was telling people the series has been closer than what people think. Because going into halftime in those first 2 games, Minnesota was right there in arm reach. In game 1, they was winning going into coming out of halftime. Game 2, they was down 6 points coming out of halftime. But it's been those third quarters has then been their Achilles heel. If they can be able to limit the bonehead plays, the brain dead plays going on, and they just like they forget to play basketball in the third quarter. If Minnesota can be able to step it up in the third quarter and be able to play a full 48 minutes of ball game, like Nickeil Alexander said, take it quarter by quarter by quarter by quarter, 12 minutes at a time. All right, we got through this 12 minutes. Second quarter, we not looking ahead. We worrying about this second quarter. We got to win this second quarter. We got to play our best in this second quarter. All right, coming at halftime, we know we got to be able to lock in. Don't let them go on the run. If they do, we got to be able to withstand the punches that they blow at us. But make sure we take care of the ball and make sure that if we turn the ball over, they not getting open runouts. Make sure we haul ass and ourselves back on defense and make them work for every shot attempt and every basket that they get. And I think, you know, that's a good formula, and I think that's a key to success for Minnesota moving forward. You know, they got one on their home floor. It's gonna feel good for them. But now they gotta replicate this performance. I'm not saying, like I said, it's not 42 points. They don't have to win by 42 points. It's the playoffs, Western Conference Finals. A win is a win, however you get it. Whether that's 10 points, 1 point, 100 points. A win is a win right now. And y'all need every win that y'all can get. And that's just how I feel. Minnesota, they were just a more aggressive team. They was just a better team tonight from every aspect. Rebounding aspect, take care of the ball aspect, points in the paint, 3-point shooting, they were more aggressive. From every aspect that we were looking at, OKC, they was destroying the Minnesota Timberwolves in. They flipped the script tonight in this game 3, and that's how they won tonight. And I just think it's still crazy that they beat a team like this with this type of historic defense by this many points. And that just goes to show you how good that Minnesota Timberwolves really is on the offensive side of the ball. And I was telling people, everybody was thinking I was crazy by thinking that Minnesota had a chance to win this series. But after what I've seen in that Denver Nuggets series, OKC versus Denver, offensively and defensively, I think Minnesota's a level above the Denver Nuggets, and they won 7 games with OKC. So that's really was my thought process, and how they played tonight. You know, they bagged up my reasoning behind that. So we're gonna see how this series plays out. I'm gonna see y'all at the game 4. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that comment section below. Let me know how y'all feeling after this game 3. Do y'all think Minnesota can come back and win game 4? You know, tie this series up, heading back to OKC. Do y'all think the OKC Thunder gonna bounce back? Hit that comment section below, hit that subscribe button. Make sure y'all let me know something. And I'm gonna see y'all at the game 4. What it is? I'm gonna see y'all at the game 4 on Monday night.